Hello, I thought it was time to do another Metta video. I'd introduced the subject in the last video I did, and I was very much concerned that how important it is to get the sense of what Metta is before you try to follow any kind of formal way of approaching cultivating this. And so I was very much trying to get people to focus on people that they admire, that they respect, that they like, that the good qualities of that person come easily to them, and that the emphasis is on really making a connection with that person in your mind through acknowledging their sterling and good qualities, whatever they may be, and then wishing them well. So it's a two-part process, and placing the emphasis more on developing a sense of the good qualities of people and then wishing them well. So rather than beginning with yourself, as it in the more formal Buddhist practice, you start with yourself, and then you move on to a respected person, then a friend, then a neutral person, then an enemy. Rather than trying to do that at first, it's better to take the time with people for whom that sense of their good qualities will come more easily. Now, I called today's video "Every Day I Write the Book," which is the name of a Elvis Costello song, which isn't really much to do with it, other than the fact that I'd like you to consider how it is that we actually create the world in our mind. We create a narrative, a story, as our life is unfolding, that we inhabit with the characters in the apparently objective world out there. We have, as it were, a version of that in our own minds, and we inhabit that storyline with these people, and we give them characteristics. We highlight certain characteristics and undervalue others. Now, with people that we like and we get on with, we tend towards the acknowledgement of their good qualities, and we tend to suppress notions of perhaps their negative qualities. And with people we don't like, we exacerbate and exaggerate their negative qualities and pay absolutely no attention to their good qualities. And so the reason why I called this video "Every Day I Write the Book" is that every day we all edit our narrative, we adjust our narrative as we're going along, because we need to make sense of the world, and that's the way that we do it. And so what the Buddha's teaching is trying to get us to do is to cultivate a narrative that includes the people that we find it difficult to get on with. And the reason that we find people so difficult to get on with is because we tend to exaggerate their negative and ignore their positive qualities. And this is true with people that we don't personally know. For instance, with politicians, it can be very easy to fall into the trap of just dwelling on what we can personally consider to be negative qualities, and we ignore their good qualities. But for anyone to be in a position of power, they must have displayed good qualities. As I said on a recent Facebook live stream I did, that if truly somebody had no good qualities, we wouldn't elect them, we wouldn't vote for them in mass numbers to be our representative in the political world. But we do, and we do because they are very good at the things that we are not good at or that we don't like to do. So it's inappropriate for somebody practicing Metta to uphold a purely negative attitude towards somebody. And if we do, what happens is, whatever it is we think about somebody, whatever of a person's characteristics we choose to dwell upon, we will be confronted with an exacerbation of that in the way that we perceive life. So if you're only looking at somebody's bad qualities, that will be confirmed back to you. You will only see their bad qualities, which will then go into your critical judgment of them. So that will be reinforced, and so the whole process of reinforcing somebody's negative qualities is being perpetually enhanced. Which is why you get to the point where people accuse other people of having a kind of derangement syndrome regarding certain people, that because they can only ever see certain qualities and they can't see other qualities. And so metta, the practice of metta, necessarily must include people that we find challenging, and learn to include the observation and noting of their positive qualities, which will offset the tendency only to see the negative qualities. It's not to say with somebody that you struggle with that they genuinely don't have negative qualities, but the purpose of the metta is to change your perception of the world, to bring it more into a balance with the way life actually is, because life contains all different qualities, and people are multifaceted. They have many different sides to their personality, and that as part of this process of becoming spiritually more aware and more awake, we need to factor that in and understand that just as we are highly complex, multifaceted beings, so is everyone else. And nobody is all bad. Everyone has good qualities. You wouldn't have been born in the human realm if you didn't have some good qualities. So that's a very important thing to bear in mind. Now there is one particular person in the way that we narrate, which is true for all of us, and the way we narrate that person, who comes in for especially bad treatment. And that's the person in our internal narrative and our story that we call me. The me in our story. And we separate the me person out and accord special treatment, special positive treatment and special negative treatment to that person. We don't often treat that person in the way that we treat others. And so part of the metta practice is about learning to look at ourselves and to note and observe the good qualities that we have and to wish ourselves well. And for some people, that is the biggest enemy. Their sense of themselves as being not good enough. It may very well be conditioned in during early childhood, this idea that I'm never good enough, that somebody is always pointing out my faults, and that becomes internalized, which is a terrible shame. However, it's not, because these are the lessons that we're here to learn. Okay, so when we develop metta, we have to learn to view ourselves as another person in the narrative, who is equally complex and equally has a multitude of different facets to their character. So we have to learn to treat ourselves as we may very well be the protagonist in our internal story of life. However, we do need to see ourselves as another human being, just another human being, with good qualities, with negative qualities, and that we're choosing to focus on the good qualities and to note those and observe those. So what I suggest is people keep metta very light. It isn't intended to be a heavy process at all. So starting in a very light way with just dealing with people that we find noting their good qualities easy, And then once you've established that as a habit, and you're starting to get a sense of happiness arising when you think of these people, thinking about their good qualities, wishing them well, then start experimenting with doing it in a slightly more formal way, where before you sit down to meditate, you create a list of people that you're going to do the metta to. Keep it short, little and often, I think, with metta to get it going. Start with yourself, then a respected person, then a friend, not a sexual partner though, just a friend, a neutral person, and then somebody that you have difficulty with. That could be somebody known personally to you, or it could be somebody that's often in the media, but the point is that it's somebody that you will find it more difficult locating their good qualities. And you treat it as a daily exercise. It's not going to be that you're going to be full of love either to yourself or to the person that you find difficulty with in a moment. It's going to take plenty of practice to change the culture of the mind, to develop the neural pathways, if you like, to accomplish this particular meditative exercise. So that's why doing it little and often is really, really helpful. So you start with yourself and you just think about 3 or 4 of your good qualities, and then you wish yourself well. May I be well and happy. May I be free from all enmity, affliction, and anxiety. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties arise for me. May I always meet with success. May I have the courage, the patience, the understanding, and the determination to meet and overcome all of life's trials and tribulations. May I obtain my heart's desires. And so you set it up by thinking about just 3 or 4 of your good qualities, and don't forget that we have vastly more good qualities than negative qualities. We tend to be very critical. We tend to think of good qualities as just being normal, and bad qualities or negative qualities as therefore that's what we focus on, because it's the classic, there's a whole wall full of beautifully assembled bricks and mortar, and then there's one brick which is slightly out. So one brick is out of 999 other bricks which are perfectly placed. There's one brick that's slightly out, and we just focus entirely on that. We don't stop to consider that actually those other 999 bricks have been placed beautifully. So we're redressing the balance. So we focus on 3 or 4, how long does that take? It takes just a few moments. And then you move on to the person that you respect, you think of their good qualities and wish them well. You're not hanging around trying to drum up a feeling. The feeling will come as a natural result of performing this practice. It just starts to manifest. So you content yourself with fulfilling the practice, gaining the successful volition of successfully going through all these different people in your life, acknowledging their good points and wishing them well. And you go from the respected person to the friend to the neutral person. And yes, a neutral person is neutral because you don't know them personally. They're just somebody who fulfills a function in your life. Could be just somebody in a shop who serves you, and you just remember them, and you don't know anything about their life. So, but they did serve you in the shop. They did get your change right. Yeah, they're there, they're working hard. Their employer obviously thinks that they're employable, so they must have good qualities. So you think about them and wish them well, and then move on to the person that you have difficulty with. And as I say, there is nobody who is born in the human realm who does not have good qualities. So if it is, say, a politician, well then they must have public speaking capacity. They must be good at reading people. They must be good at thinking through problems and finding solutions. And then you wish them well. May they be well and happy. May they be free from all enmity, anxiety. May their heart's desires be fulfilled. You just... And with the person you have difficulty with, you're not aiming for, oh, they're such lovely people. You're just aiming for a balance, equanimity. Just a balanced view of a human, who and what a human being actually is. That they are multifaceted, that they are complex, that they have got a rich and difficult backstory as we do. They had an upbringing. They had a difficult parent. They had squabbles with their siblings. They had a difficult start. They had trouble at school. Whatever it might be. So, yeah. And I mean, this is an associated point, but when you get into the higher teaching of Buddhism and you start looking at ultimates and you start seeing how it is that reality is being weaved together moment by moment. So that sort of objective reality that you assume is there, that your thinking relates to, isn't real in the way that you thought it was, and that you start to recognise that it is entirely constructed. Then metta, the practice of metta, becomes even more powerful, because you realise that actually your perceptions, your resultant perceptions, are a fundamental building block in the creation of this conventional existence. So that the way that you use your mind is hugely influential in creating the story as it's unfolding. So it's not actually, in the end, that you have your internal story that relates to this objective reality. You realise that it's all melded in the same indivisible flow, as it were. So, yes, so if you do practice your metta every day, say for a few minutes at the beginning of each meditation, you will find that has a demonstrative effect on the way that you perceive the world and the way the world is actually operating. So every day you're writing the book. What kind of novel, what kind of book are you writing? You can influence that tremendously by the way that you choose to use your mind. And so cultivating a positive outlook, having a positive attitude towards people, considering people in good faith, holding an attitude of good faith with people. Yes, of course, there are always going to be bad apples in the box, but generally speaking, if you are far more able to recognise those when you practice metta. And what you find is you're able to have faith and trust and have confidence in your fellow human beings to a far, far greater extent. So yeah. So I hope you found that helpful. I'll keep doing these metta videos as well as the mindfulness of breathing videos, because they do seem to be helpful to people. So please do let me know any thoughts you have about them and what you'd like me to talk about, and I'll endeavour to do so in future episodes. Okay. May you be well and happy.